Welcome to this webinar, How to Succeed in the Practice of Law. First of all, this is a live webinar, so I will be taking questions after the webinar about this and any other topics that you want to know about with your career. But this particular topic, I think, you are in a very good place today watching this. I think this could actually change the course of your career and life, actually, if you understand what I'm going to talk about today. And the reason that I think I'm qualified to talk about this is I've reviewed the resumes of hundreds of thousands of attorneys. I've seen the patterns that make people successful practicing law. I've talked to tens of thousands of attorneys looking for jobs, and also both senior attorneys that have had 30 years of experience or junior attorneys. And frankly, most attorneys blow it. They have nowhere near quality of careers they could have. They're not as happy as they could be. And they don't really realize a few simple rules that I'm going to talk about today. And what's interesting about what I'm going to talk about is it's something that anyone can do. It doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter how qualified you think you are, how unqualified you think you are. If you follow what I'm going to talk to you about today, you will be very successful. In fact, no one that I know of that has followed what I'm going to talk about today has not been successful in the practice of law. You can have the best experience in the world or not, in terms of where you went to law school or in terms of what you've done with your career to date. But if you understand what I'm going to talk about, it's going to profoundly change your career. And final thing before I kind of start this presentation is, for me, it's very sad because I see so many talented people not have the careers they're capable of because they don't understand what I'm going to talk about today. I see it every single day. I saw it this morning talking to someone that I just couldn't believe how little they understood this. And the person had Ivy League degrees and things and was just meandering through their career with nothing ever happening. And it doesn't need to be that way. I don't understand why law school don't teach what I'm talking to you about today. I don't understand why this isn't really required for anyone that goes to law school or comes out of law school, because this is so simple, but no one really ever embraces this rule. And I do not, these rules, and I don't understand why. I do believe, because I have so much experience in this industry, and again, this is all I've been doing for a quarter of a century, that I understand this rule. And I've just, whether it's partners or associates and interviewing different types of attorneys, that I've really, I believe, come to understand this. Just a quick story. During my second year of practicing law, I was staying in my office, and then two attorneys that I had worked with that were in my class year walked in, and they're nice guys that I had known since I started there. And the funny thing is that when they walked in, it was just very strange timing. I just gotten off a telephone call with a legal recruiter who told me that I was receiving an offer from a competing firm where my salary would actually double. And back then there was like a standard salary band of, I think, when you first through second, and your attorneys in Los Angeles, if the largest firms were making, you can't believe how long ago this is, but it was like the top firms were paying like $80,000 or something. And then there was a few firms in New York, which was like maybe like Milbank and Skadden and Dewey Ballantyne that had salaries that were double, which was just crazy. I mean, it was unheard of at the time. And when they walked in, I don't know how the timing worked out that way, but they started talking about what a great firm our firm was, and that the attorneys, and if you stayed at this law firm, were just going to manual that you would make partner if you remain there. And they said at that time, they were also second-year attorneys, that their objective was to remain at the firm and to become partners. That was what they wanted to do. They had already decided that right then and there. And so what was interesting is there were maybe like 15 or 16 people in my law school and my class, the first year associate that had joined this firm. And these two guys, both of them, became partners in that law firm. Everyone else left. And for the most part, just has been doing this and that. They've had different jobs, nothing complex. Obviously, I do what I do, and it's found my calling. But most of the people that left did not find their calling. They've just been doing this and later when I say this and that, working in a law firm for a year or two, then going house, going to government, just all these different things. Whereas these guys that knew what they wanted to do right when they were young and were committed became partners in this big firm. And not only that, but they were making millions of dollars a year, which isn't obviously the most important thing. And then one of them retired after getting a bonus, I don't know, $35 million or something for getting such a good result from a case that firm felt entitled to give him that bonus. And I think one of them maybe still working there, I'm not sure, but they certainly stayed there for a long time. When I found out these guys had made partner, which wasn't that hard to do, when I found that out, I realized that of course they did, because I knew back then that that's what they wanted. And they remain there. One of them, of course, is retired, but yeah, so that's what happened. I like legal recruiting because I like seeing that what makes people succeed doing this. And I believe that the difference between people that are successful and people that are is the difference between being strategic and tactical. And I'm going to talk about that right now. But what I mean by strategic and tactical will be clear in a few minutes, but this is the big thing. This is what separates successful attorneys from non-successful attorneys. And unfortunately, almost all attorneys tend to be tactical. And I'm going to talk to you right now about what that is. Always talking to attorneys and interviewing resumes all day. And I see the same thing over and over again. And it is that it's almost every resume I review has this issue. For example, it's common for someone to go to a top law school and then have a succession of 4 or 5 jobs with major firms, relatively short period of time. They typically will leave these firms and go to another firm, and you don't really wonder why there's so much movement. And the chances are that each time this attorney moves, every firm is maybe not the same, but it's pretty similar. And the people probably are pretty much, maybe a little bit different, but there's probably not a huge difference. And the issues that the attorney encountered at their first firm that they didn't like with the people or the work are likely to be fairly similar. Obviously, there's differences, and there's large and small differences, but there's going to be pretty similar. And then the attorney probably, whatever issues and things that the attorney didn't like at their previous firm, it's probably going to be quite similar at the second, third firm. And every partner that I've ever worked with, basically, law firms are pretty much the same. There's differences in culture and things, but there's, the problems that an attorney has at one firm are probably similar to the ones they're going to have at the next. And if you think about your personal life, a lot of times the problems people have in one personal relationship with a significant other are going to be similar to the ones in the next and the next. So that with an attorney, also a lot of the issues that they experience their firm, even if they're not constantly switching firms, are often going to be similar as well. One thing that concerns me is a lot of people pick this up from companies, they pick that up from other people. But a lot of companies do things in the very short term. Executives go to companies, they figure out how they can get the largest bonuses so they can retire, do something else. And there's a lot of emphasis on things being done for the short term and not as much emphasis on the long term. And people that emphasize the short term, which I'll talk about, is short term is getting the most salary right now, getting this and that, tend to be very tactical. And I don't think that's a good approach. I think that if you find an employer like a law firm that's fair and reasonable, meaning they're going to pay you a certain amount, they're going to advance you, there's rules for doing well there, you can be there for 10, 20, or 30 more years. And I'll just say it off the bat that the happiest attorneys that I've ever worked with, the ones that get the best jobs, the ones that seem to have the best careers, the ones that are happiest, the ones that have, for whatever reason, the most stable relationships, both in and outside of work, are able to stay with current employers for a long time, or it could be 10, 20, or 30 years. And obviously, I make my living moving people between firms and into firms, but I will say that if you find the right place, you should really concentrate on being there for as long as you possibly can. There's just absolutely no doubt about it. And there'll be reasons for it, which I'll talk about in a second. Having a long-term connection with your employer, someone that respects you being loyal, and someone who you understand and you understand the rules and what it takes is very meaningful. It's not easy being married and divorced 3 times, or it's not easy switching jobs very often. The people that tend to do the best in their careers are able to be at their employer. Now, a long time. Now, this isn't the point after the webinar, but I just want you to understand that if you are able to find an employer that you believe you can stay at, you're going to feel a lot of security. The employer is going to be comfortable with you. If you're committed, there's a connection, and you're going to have relationships there that are going to be deep enough that to let you go would be almost unthinkable. And you're going to be around people that understand you as well. And every day I see resumes of people that never find a home, and they just are bouncing around to different firms, to different in-house employers, all these different things. I can't imagine how they ever feel economic security. I can't imagine how their families ever feel secure. I can't imagine how they ever expect to be successful in their careers, because they're never going to set down roots and do what's necessary to have a good career. I just don't understand that. The most successful people are able to have a reason for staying at a place for the long term. So it wasn't until really the mid-1980s, and I know this because of what I've learned from my parents and others, and that most companies in America, if you were hired there, you might be hired out of college, people remained at those companies for their entire careers. That a lot of that was driven by America, strong in manufacturing. So there was a lot of stability, because after World War II, the U.S. was one of the first people to be able to rebuild because they hadn't been bombed and so forth. And there was a large manufacturing industry and a lot of stability in the United States. As countries like Japan started rebuilding, and they started sending better and better products like cars and other things to the United States that were better than what the U.S. was making. It created economic issues for a lot of American companies who couldn't compete, so they needed to started letting people go and doing layoffs, and then also people started leaving, going between companies as well. And it was the same thing with the law firms. There wasn't really anything considered lateral movement in law firms until that time as well. The legal recruiting business didn't even start until the 80s. People just weren't moving around. You joined a law firm out of law school, and that's where you stayed. And you weren't poached by other law firms. There's been this whole breakdown in the relationship between employees and employers, that there's just less respect on all sides. Employers don't respect employees as much. They let them go. They lay them off more readily. And then employees also don't respect the employers as much. In a similar way, they will leave and not be loyal to their employers. So that's just how it's working. Now, I'm not saying this is exactly how things should be, but there was a lot more security from the standpoint of an employee, because if you went to work someplace, including law firms, you weren't going to just suddenly lose your job when you got, for whatever reason, and you also wouldn't be, if you could almost always make partner, but if you didn't make partner, you wouldn't be fired. You would usually, but some law firms actually, like Prevail, send you in a house with IBM things, but for the most part, you had a lot more security. And so what I'm talking about now, when I'm talking about tactical, which is the point of this webinar, Tactical and Strategic, is that anything that you're doing when you're thinking about short-term gain is dangerous. So someone who's tactical and they need money, they might rob a bank instead of investing in their education and trying to find a real job and putting out roots and committing to a career, those sorts of things. That's what someone that is tactical would do. They would they would only be concerned with something with short-term gain like that. If you think about criminals, most criminals are tactical, and that's why they go to jail. And being tactical does not work. It doesn't work for them. It does not work for you. Sometimes, this is quite often, an attorney will go to a law firm and they may not like how the employer feels or the employer says about their work, and they don't get praised, or they don't feel like they're being treated the way they want to be treated. They will immediately find another employer that they hope makes them feel better. Or if they don't like the hours, if they don't like they don't like their boss, or they don't like the location of the office or whatever, they may immediately switch jobs. They'll just go to another firm right away, and they'll continue doing that as things bother them and they want to do something else. Sometimes they'll say, I don't like practicing law in a law firm, and so they will go work in-house or the government. Other times they'll say, oh, I don't like my practice area. So they'll go and they'll try to do another practice area, or they'll say, I don't want to work, whatever. They'll come up with all these reasons for not staying at their law firm. Or they'll say, I don't know, that I prefer to work in this other practice setting, or they'll just have all these different things or they want to go to a firm where I make more money, or I want to go to a firm where I get more benefit. Who knows? But there's all sorts of things that people will come up with. They'll sometimes just look at the results they're getting here and there, or how something makes them feel in the short run. It's always very common. When I say it's common, it's most attorneys percent. If their firms aren't paying quite market, they'll start looking at other opportunities. So instead of doing the best they can at where they're at to earn more money, to get the attention of and have more value, they'll just find another place that's going to give them a little bit more money. I see so many examples of this. It's very funny. I see people that are employed somewhere, and then they see something that pays more than what they're making, and everyone likes them where they're at, and they go to that place where it's more than what they're making, and then the firm that pays them this higher salary can't afford to pay them anymore. When things slow down, they lose their job, and then they can't find a job. People just do really dumb things with their careers, and I think in terms of the short run, I'll give you more examples, but people they make decisions that are just based on things that often they don't understand and don't make sense. People will leave if they're not getting the kind of work they want. That's also very common. People will say, oh, I'm not getting enough of this type of work, so I'm going to leave. Or I'm not doing this, so they'll want to leave. And again, I make money, my job and my livelihood is based on sending people to different firms and getting them different jobs. But I just see so many train wrecks in careers that end with these mistakes. And that if I look at candidates coming to BCG and submit their resume every day, and I see so many people, most people that I see are making mistakes where they're just only also being tactical. So let me tell you a couple of stories. There is one attorney that I know, very smart, actually know him personally, because he graduated from a top 10 law school. And not only that, but he did very well. When I say very well, I don't know, about 5% or something, maybe better than that. And he did some work outside of the law firm for a few years. I don't know what it was. Maybe he was working for the National Security Agency, something important. And then after his third year, he joined a law firm. And he told the law firm that he didn't want to do anything but intellectual property litigation. When he was interviewing, I think he said he wanted to do it, but they didn't think that's all he wanted to do. He just said he wanted to do IP litigation. That was what he said. And this firm was one of the top firms in the United States, meaning they had an incredible reputation. They had people there with the best pedigrees. It was very well thought of, great firm. And this particular firm, when he joined the firm, the office that he was in, meaning this firm has a bunch of offices, they didn't have any IP litigation case at the moment. And maybe they settled, or I don't know what happened. So they put him on another type of case. And he refused to do work. He said, I'm not going to work in this other practice area. thought he was very smart and special, business law schools and so forth. He said, I'm not going to do any of this work. I came here to do IP litigation, and that's what I intended to do. And he had a belief that he was, based on his academic pedigree and the fact that he'd worked at the national, whatever job he'd had or his experience, that he was entitled to get that type of work, even though the firm didn't have it. And so after 4 or 5 attempts to assign him, the firm gave up. Now, I don't know that he refused to do everything, but I think maybe he was angry. He's the one that explained all this to me, but he was very upset with them for not giving and any of this type of work. So instead of doing what they wanted to do, he did doing work. And so he was fired from this firm, meaning despite his academic qualifications that were exceptional, he was fired because he wasn't doing what they asked of him. His tactic was he wanted to get this sort of work. And so because he was he didn't bill any hours, he never got any good references. There was no explanation that he could give other than the fact that he wasn't doing the kind of work that they asked him to do. And so he never was able to get a job with a firm of more than a few attorneys again. In fact, what he did was he had a succession of contract attorney jobs, meaning working for these contract attorney agencies. He had a bunch of jobs like that. And then in addition to that, he was able to call himself counsel or something at some firm that would just pay him a percentage of the revenues from a small firm. But this is someone I want you to understand that was exceptional. He could have had a career at a very good firm doing very well. Had he gone into wherever he started and said, I'm going to do whatever it takes to become a partner. I'm going to do whatever it takes to become the best, most well-known litigation attorney in the United States. But he didn't. He came in saying, I just want to get this type of work right now. Now, this sort of mistake that he made is a little bit extreme, meaning turning down work. But people do this. They come in and if they're not getting exactly what they want in terms of the type of work or the type of salary, their efforts are half-hearted and they resent it and their heart's not in it. And so because they're just thinking about this tactic of getting what they want, that it's actually holding them back and making them unsuccessful because they're thinking about just one thing. This is just something that happens. But I want to emphasize that this particular attorney, he's no different than so many that I see people like this each day. Very talented people that get into the practice of law and make these mistakes where they're just thinking about one thing. They're just thinking about their salary. They're just thinking about what they did. And one thing I wanted to bring up also that is relevant to me. So I was at this great firm, Quinn Emanuel, it was small at the time I grew. It was like 45 or 50 attorneys, but the cases were remarkable. The potential of advancing was remarkable. The people were very nice and I liked them, and the people were very smart. And so as a tactic, instead of thinking, hey, I want to be partner at this firm, I want to do this, I thought I better make more money if there's an opportunity. And I did that, and it was a horrible mistake. I went someplace that is a firm that eventually went out of business, a huge New York firm. I didn't like the people. It just wasn't a good place to work. And so that tactical move basically cost me working in a law firm as a career, made me push me into this, which I'm happy about. But at the same time, a tactical mistake can be disastrous. And from my standpoint, had I wanted to continue practicing law, it was disastrous, because if I'd had the same goal that those guys who walked into my office had, we want to be partner and so forth, then that's what would have happened to me. But because that wasn't where my headspace was, and because I hadn't thought things through and know what I wanted to do, I made a tactical decision that was very dangerous. And think about the tactical decisions you may be making. Think about, what are you emphasizing? What do you think is important? Where's your headspace at when it comes to your career? Because if it's not in the space of having some sort of something that's bigger than a tactic, you're going to run in a lot of trouble. This particular attorney from a top 10 law school that did very well, that could have worked any place they wanted to, that could have done anything he wanted to was completely thrown out the window. And in contrast, and I'll talk about some more examples today, I see people every day that come out of law school and they don't even go to great law school. They go to law schools from California that maybe aren't even EBA approved. They're just like these random schools or office buildings and things. There's schools like that around California. I don't know why it is. Some of them are even for sale. I was thinking about buying one several years ago that was for sale for $800,000. It was like law school. Like the law school was actually for sale, and you could buy it. But there's unaccredited law schools all over, and these unaccredited. But the point is that people come out of these law schools and they know exactly what they want to do. And I want to be like the best family law attorney in LA or whatever. And they do it. But tactical people come out and think differently. And I'm going to talk about what tactical means in a minute. So a couple of years ago, I was with a recruiter from our company, and that recruiter was meeting an attorney that they had placed for a meal. And he was meeting them for dinner in a Japanese restaurant. And I was tagging along at this meal. And the attorney had recently been placed at a great firm. I think it was Whitson and Straub. And the attorney said he was very upset. He wanted to talk about moving because the firm, instead of having him park, I don't know, it was actually not on the floor. It was instead of having him park in the parking garage of the building, they were making all of the associates and staff park in a parking lot across from the building to save money. He was very upset about this and decided that because they were making him, and it's Winston & Straub, one of the leading firms in the world, instead of very upset about this. And because of that, he needed to look for another job with another firm. Now think about this. And this particular guy was a graduate of University of Chicago Law School and done very well there. But been at a previous firm, very good in LA, or Melvin E. Myers or something. And now he was moving to another firm because he was very upset about parking. And this was a third or fourth year attorney, upset about parking. So he's going to move first. And this is just, if you think about it, this is insane. But this is what people do. People are focused on what they can get here and now. So maybe this attorney felt like the other attorneys in the firm were treated poorly. So because of this parking condition. So now he needed to move. Now this, if you think about how incredibly crazy this is, I mean, these are people that are making mistakes that are very, very highly educated and have the best qualifications in the world. And they're making these kind of mistakes. So that's what concerns me. They're concentrating on these very small issues that really are insignificant, and there are things that hold in the back tremendously. So they're grabbing onto small things that have nothing to do with their long-term success, and think about how much that's holding them back, and how serious that is. And I'll give you more examples, but people that are not concerned, that are more concerned about, like I was, like about money, or more concerned about getting the kind of work they want, or more concerned about parking. These are very small things. And there's a lot of small issues. It could be that I don't like how a partner treats me. I don't like how, I don't know what it could be. I don't like people give all sorts of reasons for wanting to move. I've heard of people, like I talk to attorneys all the time, and they'll be at like this incredibly prestigious firm, and they'll say, oh, I need to leave because morale's really low. And the firm may have been around like 100 years, and people concentrate on these small things, and they might not even be that small. They might be larger, but they concentrate on small things and sometimes not so small things. And this ends up holding them back and really often destroying their career. So again, I was very tactical in my career and made that mistake. But so many people are tactical. They could be tactical with deciding they want to go in house, or deciding that all these small things that end up pulling them back. And I'm sure that you probably, if you think about it, have made a lot of tactical mistakes. These tactics will become a lot more understandable when we talk about strategic attorneys. So strategic attorneys are the ones that actually are successful. And what this means is they have a well-defined, detailed plans to achieve their long-term goals. That means that they know what they're after. They've thought about what it is they want to achieve. They've thought about where they want to go, and they know they have long-term goals of what they want. And tactics become a tool for achieving what they want to do, meaning they do the small things are not things that they learn from mistakes, but they use tactics as a means of getting somewhere like that they want to go, and they know what they want. So very few people go into any job knowing what they want. They just don't do it. They may not know the practice area they want. They may not know the location of the country they want. They have no long-term goals. And because of that, nothing good happens. So the two attorneys in my old firm knew they wanted to be partners in that law firm, and they were committed to doing it. They didn't worry about compensation. They just knew exactly what they wanted. And because of that, and think about in jobs that you've had, think about all the issues and things that happen to you along the way, and how difficult things can be if you don't have those sorts of issues. In our company, I've had people, I remember this is just a long ago, but I had two women that I hired really right when I started recruiting, and each of them wanted to open offices. One of them wanted to open an office in New York and lead it, and the other wanted to open an office in Chicago and lead this office. I interviewed from them. That was the goal. That was the advertisement, something I was putting out that we're looking for people to open offices, and that was their goal. And the first one of them, I interviewed different people for this job, and these were the two people that I hired, and they just were very committed to it, and they decided if that's what they wanted to do. The first woman had been at her previous job. The one that opened the New York office had been at her previous job for 8 years. The woman that opened the office in Chicago had been her previous job for 14 years. The one that had been at her office for 14 years ended up staying 18 years and fulfilling her goal until she retired. And then the one in New York, I think, ended up staying 10 or 12 years leading this office. They both came in with goals and knew exactly what they wanted. And over that period of time, they were extremely successful financially, and they did very well, but they knew what they wanted. And they had a strategy. They knew the things they had to do, and they knew the things they had to do well, and what different issues were. And they endured a lot of problems along the way, but they made it happen. If you think about these strategic attorneys that were at my first firm at Quinn & Mann, knew what they wanted to do, I'm sure, as you can definitely understand, these two people were not concerned about parking. You could have changed the parking. You could have made them walk 2 blocks. You could have told them they had to work in a dingy office by the broom closet. They knew what they wanted, and they were going to get there. They had a strategy. And most people out there do not have long-term goals. They do not know what they want. They have absolutely no goal, what they think they want. They may say, "Oh, I'd like to be this, or I would like to be that," but they really do not have any long-term goals that are solid. And if you don't have long-term goals, this is the most important thing you can have, is a long-term goal. People have goals for having a family, or they have goals for whatever, but you need, in terms of your career, you need to have long-term goals. You absolutely, if you know you want to do something in your career, you may say to yourself, "I want to be the best personal injury attorney in my city," or "I want to become this type of personal injury attorney and be the best at." Whatever your goal is, you have to have it, because very few people have these goals. And the ones with these goals are the people that become successful. And the ones without these goals are the ones that basically end up working for the people that do have goals. There's books and things that talk about this, The Secret. A lot of the stuff I don't think it's that great, The Secret. It's okay, but it's just the point of it is having goals. You have to know where you're going. And if you know where you're going, there's a book and movies and things. It can give you some examples of it. I had something bizarre happen. One time I made it's called a vision board. A vision board is where you cut out pictures and things of what you want your life to look like, and you put them all on a board, and then you look at that from time to time. And it was very strange. One of the things that I put on there was a picture of a house, but it was the back of the house looking at the front of the house. And so I bought this house and that I saw and I really liked. And then I looked, and then I realized when I one time was out in the backyard looking at the house that it was actually the exact same house. I hadn't seen it, that I put on this board of all the houses in the country. Ended up happening. So there's a lot of weird stuff that happens. So I bought the house on this board that I didn't know was the house until I was living there and saw it from this different vantage point. So the point is that you need to have goals and things for yourself, and you need to know where you're going. Now, I'm going to go into a lot more detail about this because obviously what I'm saying here is pretty obvious. But the biggest thing you can do with your careers is all these people from these great law schools that don't have any idea where they want to go, and they're thinking, I need to get the highest salary, I need this, and I need to be at this kind of firm and stuff, just get blown away. They go into firms and they're completely uncommitted. I love this guy. It was crazy. Recently, he was in North Carolina, and he went to a great school. I don't know where it was. Maybe it was like Duke. I think he went to Duke. He was North Carolina, and he went to law school, and he got out, and he went to work at a big law firm in North Carolina doing real estate work, And he got at his first firm, and it was a good firm, but he just wasn't really working hard, or I don't know, he didn't seem like he wasn't that into it. But so rather than stay there, he moved to another firm to do it. And when he got there, they said to him, you don't seem that motivated, or you don't seem like you have the drive and things. And he just had when I spoke to him, he had gotten fired from that job. And when I spoke to him, he was like, I don't know what I'm doing wrong. I don't know why I always did the assignments I was given, this sort of thing. And I was just like, wow, man, you just don't have any goals. Like, you don't know. And this guy by the top of his class from Duke, you just start just going at this firm and thinking it's just all about just doing the work, and that's it. Just think about doing the work, but not without passion, without his heart in the work, without just not caring the way he should. And so other people around him were trying as hard as they could to become partners and impress other partners, and partners were out there trying to get business, and everyone, so they could have the most business. And so all these people around him had goals, and he didn't have any, so his heart was in the right place. And so then I start working with him, and I was able to find a firm for him in a small area of North Carolina called Wilmington, Delaware. And they were crazy about him because it was a smaller firm, and they were very impressed with his pedigree and the firms he'd worked at. So he ended up going there and convincing them to hire him because he was very presentable and could talk well. And so they hired him, and there were other candidates of mine that they were talking to that really wanted the job that would have gone there. So he got this offer, and he just sat on it for a couple of weeks, and nothing happened. And then his friend that he had gone to law school with had started this litigation firm and told him that if he brought in his own litigation cases, he would get him 70% of the money. And this guy had never done any litigation, and made the decision to, rather than take this job where he would continue being a real estate attorney, decided that he was going to go to work for his friend because he wasn't really sure he wanted to be a real estate attorney. So he turned this firm down, and which actually in the long, I was actually glad, because there was another guy that didn't have anywhere near the qualifications that this guy that went to Duke had, but really wanted to work there and was just so happy. And because he knew exactly what he wanted to be part of the real estate firm. He wanted to go get his own business. He wanted to do all this stuff. And so the guy from that guy that we did, and the other guy that didn't get that turned down the offer ended up basically going to this upstart litigation firm that didn't even really have much work because he didn't know what he wanted or what he wanted to do. And he would have had to move to Wilmington from Chapel Hill or something to do this work, but no goals. And so I don't think anything in particular will happen to the guy from Duke's career because he doesn't know what he wants to do. I think it's going to hurt his family, his relationships with his spouse, and all sorts of things because he doesn't know what he wants and he's not hungry enough. So this is what happens to people that don't know what they want. They end up getting blown out of the water by those that do. I'm going to tell you an interesting story right now because because I was able to do this not too long ago. I'm part of this group called YPO, which is the Young Presidents Organization. And we get to do these kind of really cool things sometimes. And one of the things we did recently was we went to, and this is actually a very powerful story, I think, if you understand what I'm going to talk about. But we went to the Navy SEALs training outside of San Diego, but we had to get background checks and things to go into see the Navy SEALs. And then we went in and they talked to us about what you do when you become a Navy SEAL, what it takes. And you can read about it online, but it's something along the lines of they have thousands of people that want to do it, that apply, that are currently in the Navy, that want to enlist in the Navy and become these Navy SEALs. And then Navy SEALs are like the people that broke into and killed Osama bin Laden and they do like these, they do these very interesting, powerful things. Hero there, but very rare. So anyway, these Navy SEALs, so we went in and we got these briefings and got to see, and not technically confidential, but they talked to us about what it takes to become a Navy SEAL, what they do. But the point is they start out with thousands of people that want to be Navy SEALs, and then they give them psychological tests and things to narrow down the pack. And so eventually they come up with something like 300 people that are allowed to are allowed to enroll in a class at the Navy SEALs. Thousands of people that finally get 300. These 300 people start, and then after the third week, they have something called Hell Week, and what that is it basically starts on a Sunday night, and I think it ends on a Thursday night. But they have to be up the entire time, and they do things like carrying logs and going on obstacle courses and marches. But the point is that after a week, out of that 300 people that all really want to be Navy SEALs, there's only, again, you can look this up because I could be off, but there may be like 20 left or something, because the rest of the 300 people that start don't make it through. They end up quitting. It's just too much. Who knows? But there's the people that know what they want and get through, and they're committed, and they give it everything that they got because they know that they want to be Navy SEALs. And it's not just physical stamina that makes them do it. It's the ability to fight things in their mind that tell them that there's an easy way out. They're always like, if you want to quit, we'll give you a blanket and a hot cup of cocoa and waiting for you right here. So they always tell them it's easy. You don't have to do is quit. But again, out of 300 people, 20 people are the only people that stay. And of course, if you need to become a Navy SEAL, it's a great honor. It's a great honor for your family, for yourself, and for work, for your country, all these different things. But most people, almost all people, like less than 10% of the people that start are committed enough to do it. And again, just most of the people leave within this 1 week period where they aren't able to stay up or refuse to. And leave. And then, so after this, we did this thing with the Navy SEALs during the day. And then at night, there was a dinner with a chapter of YPO, and then Navy SEALs were invited. And I was sitting at a table with one of these Navy SEALs and his wife, and then another person and his wife. And so I talked to him, very interesting stuff, by the way, like they were on these little bases. Apparently they're always under attack by Iran. Like a lot of it's not talked about in the news or at all, and going on kind of covert missions. And they were actually very nice people. Like all of these and their wives were very stable, just very stable relationships. But what he said is very interesting. So I asked him, what happens to people that these people that drop out? Because if you start out with 300 people and there's only 20 left, that's 280 people that drop out. And so that's a big secret of the Navy. They'll end up on a ship somewhere, maybe scraping paint or cleaning or some sort of menial job like theirs, and they just serve out their time with the Navy, but the Navy's not really that interested in them anymore. They've lost. They're considered, and the only reason that they lose, and I just want to make sure this is clear, is that they don't have the commitment to get through that week, and because of that they're considered they've lost. And so this is the exact same thing that happens with most people's careers. Instead of getting the glory and the rewards of being very good at something and people knowing who you are, they end up scraping paint and whatever. And there's no success. It's just so interesting to me. Like I see these resumes of these people that just their most incredible legal qualifications. And I remember one guy had resume I saw had gone to Princeton, done really well. University of Virginia Law School, was like top of his class. And he lived like $1,200 apartment, not too far from where I live. And I saw his resume come over, and it was just like all this mishmash of stuff. And I was like, so I'll talk, and I was like, I should call him and talk to him. So I called and talked to him, and then invited him to lunch. And it's just, when you get, he was 12, 15 years out of law school, it's just mishmash of things. Didn't know what he wanted to do. Maybe write a book, maybe do this, maybe do that. And so there he is. He's just living in this apartment with nothing going on. Not even doesn't know what he wants in a relationship. People can be very smart, but I mean, he doesn't have a wife or anything. People are very smart, but then they just never know what they want, and they don't have any goals, and it's just, and their life never goes anywhere. And this happens to attorneys. It happens to people all the time. In my career, is what I do for a living. So many people have come through here. They don't think that they don't know if they want to be recruiters. They think they might want to be recruiters, then they become recruiters, and they're not sure they want to be recruiters. And then maybe they stay recruiters, but they want to do things on their own. They want to work remotely, when hours they want, how they want. And I don't know anyone. I'm very dedicated to this, and because I want to be the best person, not only ever done this and committed to it, I'm constantly like proving and looking at things in a different way all the time. And so I know what I want. And very few, if you look around, there are very few people in this industry, I don't know, even know what they want. So it's just like that with anything. If you don't know what you want and you're not committed to it, nothing is going to, your career and your life aren't going to go anywhere. You have to know what it is you want. And when you're committed to something psychologically, everything changes. When you're committed to something, everything moves to make that happen for you. Opportunities for other people see obstacles. When you see obstacles, you learn from them. Anytime the best self-improvement books and speakers are Tony Robbins' Think and Grow Rich. Think and Grow Rich is a very famous book that has changed countless thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of lives. It's about goal setting and persistence, all these things. And it's something that if you want to be successful, I would recommend reading. I remember I was at a Tony Robbins seminar once, and he said, I know a guy that has read it once and became very successful. I know another guy that's read it twice. He became twice as successful. Another guy that's read it three times as successful. It's just the kind of thing that if you keep coming back to again and again, and you have goals and you're persistent, that those things are going to happen for you, because no one has really strong goals. No one is really persistent on those goals. No one has a strategy. Like, they don't know where they want to be. And if you don't know where you want to be, you're not going to reach your full potential. Once you know where you want to be, your mind is working and thinking all the time about what is it going to take to get you there. How are you going to get, what are you going to do? What do you need? What is it that has to happen to get you there? And so once you start doing there, that's going to be very, very important. So if you say to yourself, I want to go this way, I want to be this, you will see all sorts of things that are going to make that happen for you. And that's very important. So if you have a strategy, you're going to know what the result will be. So what that means is where you're going. If your goal may be to become a partner in a law firm, if you want to become a partner, and maybe become the most successful partner in the law firm. If you want to become a general counsel at a huge company, that will be your goal. Sometimes people may want to be famous. Sometimes people may want to be incredibly rich. You may want to have the most business. You may want to be president of the United States until that's what you want, which is something that Bill Clinton wanted to do and was very motivated to do. And regardless of what it is, you have to figure out a goal. And that goal needs to be something that's very important to you, because almost no one really knows what they want to do. Now, you can say, I want to do this. You can certainly say that, but saying you want to do something is not as important as actually being committed to that goal and knowing that's exactly what you want. You need to be able to do that. And again, very few people do that. If you know exactly what you want, you're going to get there. And it's never enough to just want something, meaning you have to have a purpose. So you can't just say, I want to do something. You have to have a purpose and reasons for what you want to do to give you a motivation to do it. You need to have a why. Like, why do you want to do what you want to do? It's not just enough to say, I want to do this. If you say something like, I want to be, I don't know, you could say, I want to be, I guess an example would be, I want to be the most successful partner in my law firm, the most business. People could say why. And the why could be because I want to have employment security. I want to be able to give my family things that I didn't have growing up. I want to feel proud of myself for something. I want to feel like I want to be able to serve. I want to be able to have people working for me and helping me. I want to be able to be well known in the country and one of the best known people for what I do. I want to have clients begging to come work for me. These are the kind of ways that it's not enough just to say, I want this. You have to have all these reasons back in. And those reasons are going to propel you towards getting that goal. And so very few people have these goals where they do that. And that's what you should be doing. And you need to have goals that what you're going to achieve 1 year, 3 years, 5 years, 10 and 20 years. You should know what does success look like for you 1 year from now? What does success look like for you 3 years from now or 5 years from now? What is it you want? And if you don't have goals, you're going to be like a ship without a rudder. You're just not going to be going anywhere. And I write down 1 year goals and I write down 3 year goals. And it's amazing to me, like just by writing them down and then referring to them on an ongoing basis, this stuff just happens. It happens because I'm talking to people and getting things done and moving things in the right way. And it happens. So if you have these goals and you have them written down and you know what they are, you're going to be in very good shape. Because if you don't have these sort of long-term goals, you're literally going to be like a ship without a rudder. And it's a famous analogy, you've probably heard it before, but planes fly now with automatic pilot. But when I learned to fly a plane, it was actually very funny. It's so much different now how it works flying a plane. But when I was learning to fly a plane, you would take off from, say I took off from Los Angeles, from, I don't know, a law firm. Anyway, say I took off from Santa Monica and I wanted to fly to Oakland. The way you fly is there's these beacons and you figure out how close you are to them. They're like these things that are going off. It's very funny. It's so much different, but you fly and you go toward these places that are beeping and you realize how close you are, and then you move. Then you have another one and you map out your whole course to where you're going. But you have to make all these, you're constantly like adjusting the plane to get closer and move to get to where you want to go. Just constantly making all these small moves and things from the plane, because in order to get there, so you have to make tens of thousands of little corrections and things to get there, but you know where you're going. And there's no way you can, I guess you could take off a plane and somehow recognize things on the ground to get to where you're going. But that's how you fly planes. You have to know exactly where you're going and how you're, and make all these little adjustments along the way. And then you get there. And if you just took off flying towards Oakland, you would never get there. You have to make all these adjustments. So that's like that with your career. Decision to go to this firm may have sounded tactical, but it wasn't to some extent. My grandfather had gone to school, and this doesn't really matter too much, but he had gone to school with this guy named John Dewey that also became president. And he said, oh, you should work with him. If you want to be an attorney, work at his firm. And so when someone called me on the phone to recruiter, I said, the only place I go to work would be this firm. And then he got me a job there. And that was the only place I applied to. That was a strategy in some respect, but it's not really that important. What I want you to understand, and the most important thing to understand with your career, is having very strong goals, knowing exactly what you want, knowing exactly what it is, and then having reasons for wanting that. You cannot just go into practicing law with the idea that, hey, I want to be an attorney and expecting anything good to happen. I don't care what your goal is. Sometimes people's goals could be something as simple as, I want to be a law professor in a top 5 law school and consider being one of the best constitutional scholars in the world. If that's your goal, that's great. Or I want to start my own law firm and represent people that have been in motorcycle accidents and become the best at that. Just that as an example that you could have I know one guy, I lived next to him I used to live in Pasadena. We shared a lot. He was right behind me, and that was this guy's goal. And he retired when he was like 45, completely, extremely successful. They loaded and money for the rest of his life. Lots of that, but that was his goal, to be someone that represented motorcycle. That's a goal. There's other people who represent people that have had bike accidents or bitten by dogs, whatever. You have a goal, or maybe you want to start like an insurance defense firm. Maybe you want to be the most successful family law attorney. Maybe you want to be a criminal law attorney, or maybe you want to be a prosecutor. I don't care what your goal is, but if you have some kind of goal, you're going to be a lot more successful than people who don't. Because what most people do is they go into these jobs and they just look at it like it's work that they're doing. They're happy to do the work, but they think that they're just employees. And that's the worst possible mistake you can make. You need to know what you want to be and and then you'll be motivated and your heart will be in something instead of your heart not being in something. And that's just what, to me, is just so stupid that people do that. And I even realized that when I was in college, like I decided pretty early on when I'd go to law school, I even knew where I wanted to go to law school. I knew I wanted to go to University of Virginia Law School, and a whole bunch of reasons for that. But I knew that, and that was my goal, and that happened. But I know other people, most of the people, for example, in my fraternity, had no idea what they wanted to do. They just were like, I don't know. I'm going to graduate and I'll try to get a job or whatever. Or maybe I'll go to law school, or maybe I'll go to business school one day. No one knew what they wanted to do. So that's what most people do with their lives and their careers. They don't really know what they want to do. Think about the people you went to college with. Think about people you grow up with. Think about people that you've been practicing law with. Almost no one knows exactly what they want to do. And if they do know what they want to do, they're just completely uncommitted. It's absolutely crazy to me. Most people that graduate from top law schools, come out of law school, they don't know what they want to do. They think they might want to work in a law firm for a few years, but they don't know what they want to do. And they don't have a goal. And my point to you is, if you have a goal and you know what you want to do with your career and you commit to it, you are going to be more successful. You're going to be happier. You're going to be more satisfied and feel more a sense of achievement. You're going to have more options for your life and your career in the future. You're going to be treated better by people that you work for and the world. You're going to have all these things. But all you need to do is have some sort of goal that you are committed to, and that's what's going to make you successful, because almost no one has a goal. They don't know what they want. They don't know where they want to be. They're just completely rudderless and don't know what they want. Sometimes people get overwhelmed. Sometimes they say something like, oh, I don't know how to get started. I don't know how to do this. I don't know how to do that. I look at even my parents. I was thinking of my mother. This is an example very common of what people do. So my mother was at University of Michigan. I'm just talking about, this is just an example, but it's so common to people. So University of Michigan doing what major is a master's degree program in art history, doing incredibly well. And they tell her, you should go on your PhD. We'd love to put you in our PhD program, but you're just awesome. And you're such a good student. She says, no, I don't think I want to do that. Ends up having me, a child. And then when I'm young, decide you need to get divorced, or gets a job working for someone in the, I don't know, in the capital of Michigan or Lansing as a legislative assistant or something for a senator, like state senator. Then does that, doesn't like it. So he gets her a job working for this thing called the Michigan Department of Civil Rights. She doesn't like that. So she goes and teaches for several years in college, I think at Wayne State, teaching art history. Doesn't like that. And then decides she wants to be a tech recruiter. And then that doesn't work out. And boom, she's retired. And that's just nothing, just coasting, not going anywhere. And very talented. And this is just what people do with their careers in life. They never get to where they should be because they're just coasting. I just had a woman, people working for me, they say, oh, and this is very common. So people become recruiters here. And then they'll be like, oh, I'm not sure that's what I want to do. So maybe I'll go work in a law school career services office, which is a good job, but they're just not committed to recruiting. Or they'll say, oh, maybe I'll go work in a law firm as helping with recruiting. But again, it's just, none of this is a goal. None of this is a goal. And then people whose goal is to do what I do usually do well. People who have goals do well, and people that don't. And it's just, but that's all you need. It's not a question of how smart you are. It's not a question of how talented you are. It's just a question of having something as a goal. And you need to be strategic, and you need to know what it is. And these are career goals. And more than that, it's just career goals. And if you do this, everything in your life is going to change. You're going to be just so freaking much better off than people that don't do this. Simple. You just need to be strategic and know what it is you want to go and have a reason why. Okay, so we'll take a short break, just for a minute or two. And then when we come back, I will do questions and answers. Yeah, so this particular topic, I'm very glad that so many people are on this today, because I think this particular webinar could do something that I think that if you do what I'm talking about with your legal career, it could alter the entire course of your life, if you understand what I've been talking about today. Give me 1 second, and I'll start with questions. And again, there's many questions. There's not a ton of questions today, so looks like we're going to be, people don't have, they look like very good questions, but you can ask anything you want, answer it related to something else. So I'm a junior associate at mid-sized firm and have been struggling to build a strong client base. Okay. Despite putting in long hours and trying to network, I find it challenging to attract new clients. Can you provide tips on how to effectively market myself and build lasting client relationships? If you're a junior associate, I don't know about, it's important to worry about getting clients right now. You can certainly network, but your first 5 years of practice being an attorney are really to learn and get trained. I don't think you certainly can worry about getting business early on, but you don't even know what you're doing. But yeah, I don't know that it's going to be productive for you to try to get clients. So this is just another point for everyone that's on this call that it's a young attorney. You should not care about money. Your first 5 years of practice, you should not worry about anything other than getting trained. What's so nice about being a young attorney with less than 5 years of experience or whatever, is that you're getting paid to be trained. You do not learn how to be an attorney when you're in law school. It has absolutely nothing to do with it. Related, but practicing law as an attorney is 10 times different than than what you learn in law school. What you learn in law school is jiggly jigs, nothing compared to what you learn practicing law. Your first 5 years, you should not worry about trying to build clients to the extent you can network, you can stay close to your friends from law school, potentially, or people you met. You can do a good job with people with potential clients and things, but you need to learn how to become an attorney before you can ever worry about you should not worry about clients your first 5 years, or at least you should learn how to do what you are during your practice here. After being laid off from my previous firm for downsizing, I've been applying for new positions for several months without success. How can I address my gap, my employment during interviews, or what strategies can I use to stand out from a competitive job market? Okay, so here's a couple of things. If you have been laid off from your previous firm due to downsizing, you have to ask, who am I competing with for jobs? For jobs. So this question basically means, if you are applying for job openings, who are you competing with? Who's your competition? Your competition is people with jobs, right? So people with jobs are your competition, and people with better qualifications than you, right? So people with better qualifications than you. So those are the people that you're competing with when you're applying to openings. So do you honestly think, and I'm sorry, but unless your qualifications are exceptional, like you went to anything else, you're competing with people with better qualifications. If there's 100 applicants for a job, that's probably applicants for a job. How many of those people have jobs? Maybe 75 can have jobs. And so if you don't have a job, and again, I'm going to give you an answer that helps you, but I'm just telling you that if you're laid off, that's who you're competing with. The other problem, I just want everyone to understand, if you are laid off from a firm, the people that are providing the most value, that are working the hardest, whose heart's in it, who look committed, are never the ones that are laid off. The law firm will hold on to them at all costs. Our company, of course, because of the economy and things, has been through ups and downs, but the people that are the most valuable, I would never think of letting go under any circumstance, because I would just as soon not pay my mortgage almost, because the people that are most valuable you never want to let them. So you don't want to get laid off. The people that are laid off are typically, now that it doesn't apply to everyone, but the people that are the best are always kept on. So if you're laid off, that's why it's not good as an attorney to have any gaps in your employment. So let me just see here right now what I'm going to do. Okay, so here's the deal. So if you are looking for a position, the smartest thing you can do, 85% of the placements that we make at BCG Attorney Search are of candidates that are of places where there's actually no job opening. We go out and we find the job. We find a firm that's likely to hire them, and then we send them there. Law firms are businesses, so if they have billable hour work they could have other people do that's not being done, or if they're personal injury attorneys and they could use other people, you can get a job with them. The smartest thing you can do is, if you want a job and you want to work, let's say you want to work in, I'm just trying to come up with some random areas here, Cleveland, Ohio, and let's say you do commercial litigation. You could say a litigation law firm. So just giving you an example, litigation law firms. Let's even say commercial litigation. Commercial litigation law firms in Cleveland. So you do this and you just see this here, it's just a search. And then all of a sudden you're getting all of these different law firms, which should be listed here, that do commercial litigations. You have Jones Day and the Chandra law firm and everything, but you're going to get all of these huge amounts of different law firms. And this is very substantive. You have hundreds of law firms that do commercial litigation. So there's no excuse. You should not be applying to jobs. You should be applying to firms that, I don't know what's going on here with this Google, but you should be applying to personal injury. I guess I don't really understand why that came up. But if you wanted to do personal injury, you can find every single one every single law firm that does this. And you could go to work for Tom Merriman or whoever. But my point is that you need to go out and find places that don't have jobs. Don't even have jobs if you want to get a job. Because if a law firm needs someone, or if someone can use someone, and you apply, you are the only applicant. And if you're the only applicant, then it's very easy. You're not competing with other people. Your background's not competing with other people. And it's very easy to hire you if you are the only applicant. So think about this. Again, say you're looking for say you have a lawn and a garden or whatever. Where I'm from, Michigan, people have lawns and you need to have someone mow it. And say you've been mowing the lawn every weekend, but it's a lot of work. This is what people do, or at least where I grew up in Michigan. It's a lot of work to mow this lawn every week. It's just complete buzzkill. Like you have to do it every Saturday, but sometimes you do it Saturday morning. And say that you've been thinking it would be great to have someone maybe do this work for you. Someone appears at your door and they say, hey, I mow lawns in your street. Would you like me to mow your lawn? The only person that ever does that. And you say, hell yeah. Then you hire the person to mow your lawn, so you don't have to do anymore. And it gives you more free time. Say you put an ad out and you say, I'm looking for people to mow my lawn, and 20 people show up. You're going to hire the person, probably the nicest truck that does it the less. Who knows? But so being the only applicant for a job is the smartest freaking way to get a job. And the only way you're going to be their only applicant is if you're smart enough to do what I'm talking about here. You find places that need people like you. Well, let me just do it wrong. To be able to make it faster. Not good. Oh, that's not good either. That's not the right. I'm not going to worry about this. But I just want everyone to understand Memphis intellectual property law firms, whatever practice area you're in, wherever you want to work, it's just, you can find positions or places to apply just like this. It's really, this is all you need to do, man. So look at these people. This patent attorney right here, John Risby. No one in the world, if you're a patent attorney, I bet you would not apply to him if you were in Memphis. You probably wouldn't have jobs. But if you wanted to get a job, the smartest thing in the world would be to look at these people. Wow, Francisco Castro. There's their patent agent. There's a lot going on here, man. So you have to be able to find these kind of places, and you have to be able to apply to firms that no one else is finding. And what's this name? This is called the John Risby firm. So all you need to do is you have to find John Risby, right? So you find, where the hell's John Risby? Whatever. Here's John Risby. So this is the guy whose law firm it is. So what do? You just go to his website and you find you've got his phone number there. You've got his email's not in here. Then maybe it's right here. Let's see his email first. Quick. You find his email, or you send him a letter and say, hey, I'm here in Memphis. I'm looking for a job in being a patent attorney or a trademark attorney. I love your background and blah, blah, blah. And could I interview with you? That's it. And you do this and he's got no job. There's no job out there, but he probably needs people to help him. So if you're a patent attorney, you want to work in Memphis, this is what you do. And you just keep going all these different places. And then you've got, who you got here? Clifton Everett. So you would probably apply to Mr. Clift, right? So you tell him, well, I don't know. He looks probably like he would miss with I don't know why he says the year he's born. What is that, 84 years ago? So no, you probably wouldn't apply to Clift. You'd probably apply to maybe Drop. Let's see here. Now he's an associate. But the point is, if you wanted to work in this area, you would the smartest thing to do would be where's Griffin? Is he around here? You'd probably apply to Griffin or something. So the point is, you seek out places that don't have openings because you're most likely to get a job there. It's the smartest freaking thing to do. Again, everyone's told to just apply to jobs and things, but no, you apply to places that don't necessarily have openings, and you're going to be much more successful. And that's that. Again, I hope I gave you a very long answer to that question, but I just hate that so many careers come crashing down because people don't apply for places that don't have openings. And that's the smartest thing you can freaking do. Wherever in the country you are, I don't care. Okay, the client base of my firm has been shrinking and I'm concerned about long-term stability. How can I evaluate the stability of my firm and decide if it's time to move to a firm with a robust client? Okay, this is a very good question. A very good question. It's actually one of the most important questions anybody could ask or has ever asked on this webinar. And I'll tell you why in a second. This is a incredibly important question. So I hope I'm going to read it again, and then I'll tell you why it's the important question. The client base at my firm has been shrinking, and I'm concerned about the long-term stability of my position. How can I evaluate the stability of my firm and decide if it's time to move to a firm with a more robust client base? Okay, so this is the reason this is so important. Very important. The number one most important thing for any attorney is having work. Nothing is more important than having work. So why is that important? It's important because if you don't have any work to do, then no money's coming in. If you don't have any work to do, then they're probably not doing a good job because people give the best attorneys get the most work. I mean, if you don't have any work to do, then you're at a law firm and you're an associate or something, then you're going to lose your job. You need to do good work. You need to have people giving you work. And this is how the game's played. Associates in law firms that do the best work have the most work. I don't want to sit here and brag, but I remember when I was at my first firm, Quinn Emanuel, I was doing a good job. I clerked before I went there, and I was very, very motivated. And I was surrounded by file cabinets. I couldn't even move my office because I had so many cases and so much work. Whereas a girl sitting next to me who didn't any work in Columbia Law School with everything going on, and because people weren't giving her, if you want to become a partner in a law firm, they're going to evaluate you based on how much work you have and how much work you do compared to other attorneys. A lot of work you do is what you're evaluating on. The people giving you work and giving you repeat work is what you're evaluating on. Lawyers that are partners in law firms have to get work. The more work they bring in, the better work that they do, the more money they make, the more power they have on their law firm. Nothing, absolutely nothing in the legal profession, obviously having goals and stuff, but nothing is more important than having work and continuing to have work throughout your career. I had this thing very interesting, like it was 3 or 4 weeks ago. And I had this attorney that living in, I don't know, Erie, Pennsylvania or something. No, not Erie, like a bigger market, like Philadelphia. Maybe let's say Philadelphia. I don't want to give this guy away. He's probably on this call. There's so many people and hundreds of people. He'd probably, and so I'm not trying to insult him, but he's in Philadelphia. He'd been partner at 2 very prestigious law firms, the most prestigious. But he had to give them work, and he didn't have his own clients. And then when there was no more work, or they could do work in a different way or something, they let him go. And he's been sitting around in Philadelphia for the past 8 or 9 months with no work and no job, even though he's been at these very prestigious firms and went to Stanford Law School or whatever, sitting around no work, unemployed. And so I got him interviews, I got him an interview at a very good firm in some Midwestern city. I don't know. I don't remember which one, but it wasn't a well-known city, or like Quincy, Illinois, or so. I don't remember, but it was someplace in the Midwest or a big city, maybe. I don't remember. But anyway, I got him an interview there, and I got him another interview, and he's making fun of the city and the law firm, and the law firm was booming. There was just so much work, and then I got him. It was crazy. Like, it was law firm. It wasn't Quincy, Illinois, which is a southern city in Illinois, but whatever the city was, it was, the law firm had more work than a frickin' could handle. And I was like, I don't know why you're making fun of this law firm and working in Quincy, Illinois, because you've been sitting around for 9 months with no work. When these people just have more frickin' work than they can handle, like, you better frickin' go there and give it everything you got, because this place has work and they're willing to hire you, even though business. And so he went there and he got the job. But the point is, you need to find access to work. Partners that don't have, they lose their jobs for having no work, don't have access to work. People get senior. This is This is the biggest cancer, that the biggest mistake that, I'm sorry to cover my face, but I'm just so amazed what happens to attorneys all the time. So they go someplace and the law firm keeps them around. They stay there for 6, 7 years. And then the law firm says, hey, thanks, but you don't have any work. Bye. Have a good one. And then basically they lose their jobs. And then they come to me and I go and I remember I go and I find firms that have work for them to do. And I'm pretty successful, but I usually need to, if the person in Chicago, I need to find a place, Grand Rapids, Michigan, I don't know, but someplace with work. So I need to find them a place. I need to find places that have work and that don't care that the person is senior. And so the most important thing, the only thing, is having access to work. You need to have access to work, whether or not that work's coming from someone else, meaning someone else has work to give you, or whether or not you're generating work on your own. So you will only succeed as a law firm attorney in the long run unless you're able to bring in work. So you need to bring in work. You will only succeed as a young attorney in a law firm unless you're able to unless there are people that give you work. You will only succeed in a law firm you go to unless that law firm itself has work. So here's your question. The client base of your firm has been shrinking. There could be all sorts of reasons for that. They could be doing bad work. They could be, clients could be, maybe the type of work that they do is no longer, I don't know, but you need to go to a place that has work. That's, if you're a junior associate or mid-level, that's the only possible way to survive, is to find a place that has work. So your number one goal as an attorney, regardless of who you are, is to go someplace with work. And the only way, and so if your client base is shrinking, then you need to find a firm that has work. And that's the other thing. One other thing I want to bring up, and this is something that a hidden mine in legal careers. So hidden road mine. If you're listening to this right now, this is going to be very helpful for a lot of people on this call. So I'm going to stop sharing just for a second because I want to pull up a database. And I don't want to give away anybody's identity by calling. I'm going to pull this up and then, give me 1 second and then I'll share. This is a very important one I'm about to share right now related to this. I'm going to do key search. I'm going to do, give me 1 second. There's some demo. Just give me a second. Okay, so this is a demo account. This is our BCG database where all this crap up, stuff. So this is a demo account. Spend $100 million really building this, still building it. But anyway, let me just show you my point, right? Let me see practice areas. Okay, so this is the thing with practice areas. What so many people don't understand, when you decide what type of attorney you want to be, or what type of attorney you think that you want to be, there are some big big minds and things to avoid. Because if your goal is to have access to work, you need to be very careful about what practice area you commit yourself to. Because every practice area has a certain amount of work. It has the ability to always have access to work, or sometimes never have access to work. So alcohol beverage law would be a very risky practice area because there's not a lot of firms that do it. Antitrust and competition is very dangerous because there's only, how it's done, mainly large firms that do it. And it's very difficult to bring in clients. Imagine what kind of client you need to represent Google. If you want to be successful in a practice area like that and stay employed in the long run, you sure as hell better have a lot of confidence in yourself and ability to bring clients. That's very risky. Art and museum law, same thing. Bankruptcy, depending on the type of work you do, can be very risky unless you to bring in clients. Construction, maybe not as much so. There's construction going on everywhere. There's very few construction law attorneys that that's a great practice area to always have access to work. Corporate, okay, good practice area. You can always get work from companies and things and develop a very good client base, but some practice areas within corporate are very dangerous. Securities and capital markets are about doing IPOs. What happens when the market slows down? So corporate can be very dangerous. Criminal law is a very good one because criminal law is something that you can always get access to work. You can become a public defender. You can do all sorts of things.
Data privacy is one of the riskiest freaking practice areas out there. Everybody, when they're data privacy, everything's about data privacy. I can make a lot of job money. No, there's hardly any data privacy job will be. Not a lot. There's some, but it's very difficult, and that's a risky practice area. Education is a good practice area. There's always going to be education-related work. You can always do school. Well, actually, there's a lot where it's just sovereign immunity. But anyway, education is a great practice area. So it's always work. Energy, no, that's scary. That's a scary practice area. So my only point is in that family law, there's always going to be access to work. Entertainment, not so much. So when I look at practice areas, like immigration, always work. Healthcare, always work, right? Government, labor and employment, pretty much always work. People are having issues. Insurance defense, always work. Insurance, real estate, pretty much a lot of work. And tax, very difficult. People go into tax, and that's a very difficult practice area to stay employed. And so workers' comp is good. So my point to you just is, and I don't want to spend too much time on this, but having access to work is extremely important. Native American law, very dangerous practice area. Trusting estates is like a freaking home run. There's always access to work. So your job as an attorney is just to make sure that you always have access to work. And again, if you learn one thing in all these webinars that you've ever been to, it's that you have to have access to work. And it can be practice area based, it can be location based, you think about your location, and it can be firm based. If your firm doesn't have work, then you need to find a firm that does. That's a great reason for moving. You have to have access to work. You have to either have people that give you work, or you have to have your own work. Because if you don't have your own work, or people aren't giving you work, then at your firm, or the firm doesn't have work, then there's a lot of trouble. Here's the next question. At my firm, I'm not doing the type of work that I was promised when I joined. I feel like my skills are underutilized and with respect to my job satisfaction. Should I discuss with my current employer still looking for a new job, or my skills and interests might be better aligned? Okay, so your job in the employer is your first, again, I want to just make sure you understand this. First 5 years are all about training. About training and learning. That's all you need to care about. If you're getting enough work, then that's pretty much, you just need to be trained and learn. If you're not getting the type of work you're promised, whatever, that means that the firm doesn't have the work. If you want to stay committed to your employer and not bounce around and do all sorts of stuff all the time, then you just do what you're given and do your best. If that's it. So you have two things. You have transactional work. I'm just going to bring this up quickly. Transactional work, and then you have litigation work. You're probably on one side or the other. I don't know if there's specific work that you would like to be given, but for the most part, I really would not worry too much about it. If you believe that you can get into a better firm that has a more consistent amount of work that you're promised that you want to do, then that's what you should do. But your job at any law firm is to basically, I'm sorry, but to pitch in and try to do the kind of work to pitch in and do the best you can with what they're to do work. Sorry, I don't know what sense, but the job is to worry more about what the firm needs than what you need. You need to do what you can. If the firm doesn't have the work that you need, and you feel like you're never going to have the work, then you're going to be better off than you can leave. Sure. During the webinar, you highlighted the significance of aligning our purpose with the desired result. How can attorneys transition between different sectors of the law from corporate to public interest and ensure that purpose remains consistent while adapting your approval? Okay, so your purpose should be related to a practice setting. If you transition from corporate to public interest, I don't really understand. So you do transactional companies, which is corporate work for companies, to help the public or a greater. That doesn't seem like those are connected. Purpose and health don't really, neither of them has anything to do with the other. And that's what I'm talking about when I say that people don't commit or do one thing in a practice area. They're just always moving around doing all these different things. So I don't like that, what you're talking about. The idea of a purpose would be to be the go-to attorney for the largest of the world trying to hours. You could even get more. You could say the largest pharmaceutical companies, literally along pharmaceutical companies and companies in the world trying to do IPOs. That's a goal, right? So that's a freaking goal. That's a goal. So if you have a goal like that, you could say the reasons why, and then it would be things like because I want to do whatever, and I want because I believe that people giving them access. I'm just writing access to, I'm not going to write this up, but if you have a goal like that, to be the go-to attorney for something like doing like, that's actually a goal. And then you would probably, with that purpose, and then you would want to work in the largest law firms doing the best law firms doing IPOs. Then you would look at working with people that had the best contacts for a pharmaceutical. And there's a whole bunch of ways to think about this, but what I'm just trying to show you is that just saying your purpose is you're moving between these different sectors without any real is not good. You need to know exactly what you want. Again, it could be to be the go-to attorney for the largest pharmaceutical companies in the world trying to do IPOs. So this is who your client is. You know that, right? You want to be the people that people go to do this sort of work, and you want to be known, and that you want to do IPOs. It's securities law, and not just like anything. So it's very specific, and very few people are going to want to do something like this or ever commit to it. And if you do that, then all these things are going to happen. You're going to try to work in the best law firms to do IPOs. You're going to try to work you're going to find the best contacts and nurture those. And there's just all sorts of things that will happen once you commit to something like that, because you're going to have all of these little things that you're going to be doing for that greater purpose. Now, if your goal is just you're moving between different sectors, and your goal is I just want to be a happy attorney or something, that's not really going to get you anywhere like you want to do. I love the example that you gave for the lawyer who started out brilliant but failed because he was tactical. I'm not sure which one that was. What he could do to be strategic and convince law firm employers what could he do to be strategic and convince large law firm employers he is worth hiring at? What would large firm lawyers want to see and hear from attorneys who appear tactical? Okay, great question. So I'm actually going to probably put this in the chat. So this is it's a secret, but this is something that I share with attorneys. I'm going to put this is something that we only share internally for attorneys that get interviews. So I'm going to stop sharing in a minute because I want to get an Adobe link that I can put in, and then I'm going to go over this. This would be very helpful for everyone. So let me see if I can do a share a link. So I'm going to put this link. I'm going to put this link in chat. Hopefully I do this correctly. Give me 1 second. I'll put it in for everyone to see. Is there a way to put this in the chat? Oh boy, it doesn't look like there is. Let me see. Give me 1 second, because this is actually very useful. I don't even know if there's a way to put things in the chat. Or we say Facebook, live on Twitter and YouTube. That's interesting. No, there's not a way to put this in the chat, unfortunately. But let me see if there is a way. Answer dismissed. Okay, I'm going to go over this right now with everyone, and it's going to take a minute or two, but it should be very helpful. The first thing is that I would like everyone to understand, and I would like people to read. If you're listening to this, it will help you. Let me screen share again. It'll help you a great deal. This is something I recommend you read. It's called A Message to Garcia in Your Career. It's on my blog, which is right here, Harrison Barnes. So I write that down. A Message to Garcia in Your Career. This is a story about people. It's just called A Message. Look at it in my blog about what you need to do to succeed, and when you're given a goal, and what you need to do to reach that goal. And it's actually very interesting. And what it basically says is that if you want something, you need to basically go out and be 100% committed to it. You need to have no excuse for not succeeding, and you need to basically set a goal. You do whatever it takes to reach it. And so please read this. It will help you. And so when you are interviewing, when you want something, you need to really commit to it, and you need to respect the people that have the expertise to take you somewhere.
it doesn't matter who you think you are when you interview with a law firm. People that are the most successful, that if they've dedicated 10, 20, or 30 years to the profession, are people you need to emulate and respect and want to work for. And they know a lot, and they know a lot better than you. Your job as an attorney, by the way, is to sell yourself. You have to sell yourself if you're a litigator. You have to sell yourself to the judge. You have to convince clients to use you. You have to convince the other side of your position in a negotiation. You need to be able to sell. You need to be able to sell. The most important thing for an attorney is to be able to sell yourself to potential employers and look like the best choice. Who looks like the best choice to an employer most of the time? The person that really wants the job, that's going to work, that's going to commit, that's going to respect them, that's going to work hard. Same thing for clients. That's what clients, people that are going to commit. They'll do everything they possibly can to represent them and do a good job. The same thing with an attorney. Imagine walking into an interview. I've seen this. These are people, I have people in my company that have been here for 20 years, and almost without every single one of them has said, I will do whatever it takes to make you to work I will work as hard as I can for you. I will do everything I can. And it doesn't matter what their qualifications are. Once they say that, they will get the job. Or if they say that when they're here, they will keep their job. The people that say, if you hire me, I will eat, sleep, and breathe this job, and I'll do everything I possibly can to succeed and to do my best, are the people that get hired. Those are who you would hire too. If someone came to mow your lawn, one person said, yeah, I'll mow it for $60 a week. And another person said, I will do everything I possibly can to make sure you have the best lawn. I will put the most expensive fertilizer on it. And when other people are using cheap stuff, I will make sure that I'm here at exactly 10 a.m. every Saturday and I'm done by 11 so you can enjoy the lawn. I will make sure that I trim the most, that I do this the best. I will do everything I possibly can to do the best job for you. That would be the person that you would hire. You wouldn't care if one person is better. You would hire the best person. And that's what law firms do. It's the same thing that partners do that have the most business that are making millions of dollars a year. They commit and they do everything that they possibly can for their clients. I remember once when I was working at clients, coming back to this firm for some reason, but it's what John Quinn would always say to his clients or potential clients: if you give me this case, I will eat, sleep, breathe, and sleep this case. I will do everything I possibly can. And he said that when he was a small law firm, like 20 attorneys, and was able to convince huge corporations the things to use him. That's what you need to do to get a job. So this is just crap about interviewing, looking at firms, but what do the law firms want when they're interviewing you? They want people that will commit. And by the way, write these down. Just say, Harrison Barnes, can you do the job? Because these are articles and things that I do for law firms. I do webinars on them for law firms and things, but it's all about committing. You have to commit. People that aren't committed will leave when things get difficult. People that aren't committed will cost the firm money. People that are not committed will not try to become better. They will not try to bring in clients. They won't work the hardest. All these things if you're not committed. So that's what law firms want. And how will they know that? Someone that wants the job and really wants it and is willing to work hard and do whatever it takes is going to be freaking 10 times more successful than someone with really good qualifications that doesn't know what they want. So your question is, how can I convince a law firm to hire me? How can I do this? How can I make sure? The only thing you need to do is show the firm that you're going to work harder than other people, that it's more important to you, that this is really what you want. When I look at resumes, it's very interesting. This, by the way, is an exceptional question too. When people look at resumes, when I look at resumes, then let me see if I can get back into the BCG database. What I was showing here, I want to make sure that I get to the right thing. So let me just make sure I'm stick. Yeah. So these are demo candidates. So let's just take a look at some resumes here, and I want to show you what I mean. So these are just demo kind of things here. So these are not real people. So this person went to University of Washington. They say that the top 30% of their class. And so they want to be they right now are a securities attorney. Then before that, they were it looks like a litigation attorney. Then before that, they were a personal injury attorney. Then before that, they were doing some sort of cases. There's no consistency here. This person has no freaking idea what they want to do. This is just crazy. So they're just doing all these different things. They don't know what they want to do.
not good, right? I mean, they're talking about how they did this commercial constitutional law, courses of interest that they were interested in. There's no consistency. You don't know what this person wants to do. They're just slicking freaking an attorney out. There's no consistency. Look at this resume. This is how all these resumes work. If this person wants to be a securities attorney, everything on this resume should talk about securities. It shouldn't talk about trade regulation, antitrust, lending, higher ed, criminal. But this is what people do. If you're doing this and this is what your resume looks like, you're never going to go anywhere. You're just, because you don't know what you want to do. But this is what most resumes look like. Let's see this one at the top. Senator Caroline Gunderson Detmer, corporate fund associate. That's great. Again, these are fake resumes. This person talks about funds. They talk about all the stuff they did. They've been at the same firm doing it for 3 years. And again, these are fake pictures. But then you go here, corporate fund associate, same thing. Fund. So fund associate, right? Fund associate. Then they were a fund associate here. Then this, whatever this Virgin Hotels legal intern, this should come out. So all this stuff. So what would I do with this resume, by the way? I just want to show you how I would edit this particular resume. Let me just take a look here. So if I was going in and looking at this resume and editing it, you can see here all this stuff. You have all this stuff, these great firms, Cadwalader, Virgin Hotels, like nothing here should talk about freaking anything to do with nothing but securities or whatever this fund stuff this person is doing. It should be all funds, nothing here. You don't want people to look at your freaking resume and think that you're having anything to do, but this is it. Fund formation, funds. So this resume should talk nothing, should just say everything about funds. So this person wants to be a fund attorney. That's all they care about. So that's it. And you don't want to distract people with all this stuff. No, Substack, these kind of fun interests are okay, but nothing other. You want the resume to look like nothing other than this fun stuff. You want people to have a sense of that. And this is good because this resume right here talks about it, but then everything falls apart. So if you want to get hired by a firm, you need to look like that's exactly what you want to do. So what is the person? Patent attorney. Okay, so they're a patent attorney. So then you go here and let's see what the resume says. Good. North Carolina. By the way, your resume after 5 years of being out of law school should talk about nothing but it should be at the end. So you don't put your education at the top if you have more than 5 years of experience. So this particular resume, the person is a patent attorney, right? So you don't want to, again, you go here to this, you want this person to look like a patent attorney. So no one cares about this environmental stuff. No one cares. You have to remove it. If you don't want to say you're the treasurer of the Student Bar Association, this may look interesting to you. You don't want to talk about moot court, but then you talk about patent law that you don't want to talk about some freaking Phi Delta, whatever. And then you don't want to talk about your city council leadership award, or they're going to like the chemical engineers. They're going to leave you service. No one wants to see that. So none of this stuff matters. Your resume, you may be proud that you were a law tutor. Patent law attorney is good, but everything needs to look like this is what you want to do because that's who people hire. That's who you would hire too. You would hire someone, this person got incredible grades, there's nothing but IP. Then here they're talking about nothing but IP but unfair competition under the Lanham Act, fraud, conspiracy, RICO. No one freaking cares. Like you take that crap out. And then I don't know what this person was doing here. They were doing stuff here. So then you talk about take this crap out here, but it has nothing to do with being a patent attorney. You talk about this, prepare non-infringement stuff with patent. So I'm just trying to show you like someone that knows what they want to do does not have all this, does not have a resume that has anything to do with anything other than giving people the idea that you know what you want to do. So if you are watching this right now and you really understand what I'm saying, you have to look like for an employer to hire you, you have to look like exactly what you want to do. This person is a patent attorney. So let's take a look at their other experience here. Then they talk about IP litigation. That's perfectly fine. That's good. Now, let's see, responsibility, privilege, looks like all patent related stuff. That's fine. Then student associate, all this stuff, and then publications, great. So this person is going to get a job. If you take out all this crap, this person will get a job because everything is related to patent law. And if people look at it like this person's a freaking awesome student, they've done nothing but patent stuff, they know what they want to do. That's who people will hire. That's who's going to get hired, not someone that has all this stuff that has nothing to do with it. That's what you would do too. If you wanted to hire someone, if you were hiring somebody, you would hire someone who looks dedicated and not dedicated and the other way around. So I'm going into a lot of, these are fake people, by the way. I just want to make sure everyone understands. You want to make sure that everything on your resume looks like that's what you want to do. Now, this is a freaking, this resume right here is a mess. I'm just going to edit that for you guys real quick, or girls, to show you what's going on here. So let's see here. This person's current job is representing insurance companies in coverage. They haven't been doing it very long, but before that, they were a law clerk. But this law clerk stuff has nothing to do with what they're currently doing. The person wants to be an insurance defense attorney. They just have to say they're a, I don't know if this bar admission pending prop is, but what? No, you don't put that there. You just, because the person obviously didn't pass the bar. But the point is, your resume, if you want to get hired by a law firm, you have to, or you want to get hired, you have to look like someone that wants the job, that's committed, that wants to do it, and all that sort of thing. So if you do that, you're going to be successful. You have to look like someone that really wants the job. So your question, to go back to it, and again, I apologize, I'm trying to give everyone a lot of detail, but you have to, your resume has to look like you knew exactly what you want to do. If you know exactly what you want to do, then you know exactly what you need, then you're going to get hired. There's a very famous story at the beginning of Think and Grow Rich. Let me just see if I can find that for you. And again, this is very important, because if you learn what I'm talking about today, your career is never going to be the same. So let me say $5, Think and Grow Rich. You just show you. And again, I recommend everyone read this and change the course of your life. Let me see here. My mammy must have $5. Let me just hear. I'm just trying to find this work for you. $5. Let me show you particular. By the way, ebooks, so you can find it very quickly. I don't want to spend too much time on it, but you can see how. Let me see if I can find. Very smart, everyone. By the way, that's on this webinar. It's just here. Okay. The example at the beginning of this book is, I don't even know if this is the book, is it? This is just, maybe kind of have, 50 cents. Okay. I just, again, I'm not trying to bore everyone here. But it's a very important, really going way too proud here. Okay. There's an example at Think and Grow Rich where someone wants something, and this little girl, who's a daughter of a slave or something, I don't know, but really needs 50 cents for something. And she stands there and refuses to quit when older man says could get away, and he gives her the 50 cents. But the point is that you have to, if someone really knows what they want, if you really want to work in a large law firm, you will do whatever you can to try to be in situations and find people that are really going to hire you and stand out. You need to have a resume that looks like that's all you want to do. You need to convince people that's all you want to do. You need to put yourself in situations where you're going to able to achieve those, and where you're going to get to where you want to go. You need to do everything you possibly can to do that. And if you do, you will write papers. You will make sure you find places that do that. You will volunteer. You will join associations. You will network. You will do whatever it possibly takes to put yourself in a situation where you're going to be able to do that, and you're going to be committed. And if you're committed, that's exactly what you'll get. You will get what you want if you're able to. You will get that if you are committed. And I don't know how else to say that, but people that really want to do something always figure out a way to do it, and they commit to it, and that's all I want to do. I want to do what I do, and I'm very committed to it. And it's just, you have to do something. You have to work in a large law firm. Anybody, by the way, can get a job in a large law firm if you're committed enough and you do everything it takes to do that, and you look like the person that really wants to do it. That can you do things that will put you in a situation to do it, whether it's emailing, contacting people inside law firms, or working in smaller markets and how you can get the bigger ones, everything you can, tons and tons of things. Okay, I've considered changing my career to law and have a question about goal setting. I love learning law in a classroom setting, but I'm not sure I'll be working closely with clients and practicing law. I've considered intellectual property finance and contract law. Can you advise how to find out if I would like practicing law? No, you can't just you can just go into law school. and try to figure it out, but you have to have a passion for something. Something has to interest you. You can't just consider various things. If you want to do intellectual property, you have to research what it's like to do intellectual property, and you have to understand it. And if it interests you, if you're going to do finance, you have to do what interests you. You have to figure out what it is that interests you and why you want to do it. You can't just, I did. You go to law school, but you have to figure out at some point along the way what it is that interests you. Okay, this person's question is actually an interesting one, and I like it because this person says, I'm a senior antitrust associate at a big law firm overseas, and I would like to make partner. Or it seems the market is so competitive and oversaturated. I need boutiques at former public officials joining law firms laterally. And the impression is the work is getting more and more commoditized. Big merger cases are more scarce. Less investigations are being launched, and there's just not enough work for all firms and attorneys. What can I do in this situation? Okay, so if you really enjoy doing antitrust related work, then you're probably doing defense. I would say this law firm overseas. I don't know if you want to work in the U.S. or where you want to go, but if you really want to do antitrust related work and find work, you need to look like the most logical and only choice for someone that, for someone that wants to hire you or whatever it is. You can also figure out angles. You could figure out, can I switch from being defense to doing plaintiff's work? Do I have the skills would I be interested potentially in working in a company, doing big company that has those issues that I know an attorney recently that got recruited by Google that was in a law firm. You need to figure out where are your skills going to be the most useful, who has work that you can get close to. So let's say you're in London, I don't know, and there are people doing it in London. Who could you get a job with there? Who has the most work? The answer to your question is, so you need to find the person or group, practice setting, whatever it is, that has the most work, and that will hire you can get a job with that job with. What would I do if I was an attorney in your situation trying to find work and worried you want to be partner, but there's not enough work, and you're an associate and you don't know, what you're going to do. One thing that I probably would do if I was in your situation is I would most attorneys. I'm just giving you an example. Find who are look at these different sort of lists of people that do the kind of the work and you want to do, and contact them. Find the best antitrust attorneys and try to see what they're doing and connect with them and try to get a position with them. And if you really want to do something, you'll figure out a way to do it. What I don't like about a lot of attorneys, especially in your situation, and this is what a lot of senior associates do, I think they're victims. They're victims of their law firm work. They're victims of the legal market. They're victims of the economy. They're victims of this, they're victims of that. And that's the dumbest thing you possibly can do. You don't want to be a victim. You never want to be a victim. It's very sad. I know the quick question. My fiance, she was then very sad. A lot of people do this. She moved, she's French. She was half French. She lived in Paris. She's working for Sotheby's, and she brought in this big client, which was like a $400,000 commission that she would have gotten. And she's very young, like 26. And they stole her, the other people. They basically came in and said that they were in the mission, not hers. And then she lost the money and completely lost her self-confidence, and for a long time thereafter became a victim and was like, oh, I failed and I'm so upset and lost my confidence. But attorneys do this all the time. I know people that have become partners in major law firms, but then they don't get enough business, and so then they lose their jobs and they're victims. They go in-house and that doesn't work out. The worst thing you can do as an attorney for whatever you're doing or whatever your background is becoming a victim. People that succeed don't allow themselves to become victims. Think about, and I'm not trying to be political one way or another, but think about someone like Donald Trump being sued by all these people, having to pay hundreds of millions of dollars for people suing him for, regardless of whether or not the claims are accurate, by being committed to felonies, by 36 felonies, by being, I don't know, whatever, sued, and all these things. Like, you could be a victim. So most people allow themselves, they become victims. Now, if I was in Donald Trump's shoes and one person sued me and I lost hundreds of millions of dollars, if I had it, I would be very upset and think, oh, I should crawl under a rock. Or if I was committed to 34 felonies, I would think, oh my God, I can't be president. Like all these different things. Like, but so many people are like that. They allow themselves to be victims. The smartest thing you can do instead of being a victim is to never allow to figure out a way to be successful when other people want to be victims. And that for me is like probably the biggest piece of advice I can give you is you figure out a way to make it work, and you fight and you do whatever you can to be successful. And a lot of these questions today, oh, I'm an associate with, and there's not enough work, or I'm all these things like you are victims. And I don't want to put it this way, and I'm not trying to be rude, but there are winners and there are losers, and winners go through all sorts of trials and tribulations and fail again and again. But they somehow succeed because their heart is in the right place. I gave you the example of the Navy SEALs earlier here, where people get chosen out of thousands of applications to do it, and then only 20 make it through this hell week, and they become victims. So never become a victim. That's the worst thing you could possibly do with your career and also your life. People judge things based on that. I was talking to this older person about 10 years ago, and he'd done all these things. He'd gone to MIT or something, and that wasn't the MIT. What was it? It was like Yale. Maybe he'd gone to Yale for college and been very successful at a young age. And then basically was saying to me, like, it was very hard for me as a person who retired to become successful because I was short, and it's very hard to be a business person to walk in a room where everyone's tall. So I never was able to become successful in business or life. That's why I was never successful. That's crazy. That's being a victim. So no one should be a victim. You shouldn't be a victim because you're fired. You shouldn't be a victim because whatever happens to you. You should never be a victim. If you're a victim, that's where everything falls apart. Okay, thanks for this webinar today. I think this was a great topic. I think I get messages on a weekly basis of people that have watched this stuff, sometimes only gone to one webinar, but a lot of people go to a lot of them, but they've said that learning this stuff has changed the direction of their career and life. And so I hope for you today, this was a helpful webinar. You learned a lot because a lot of stuff we covered: victim, commitment, purpose, focus, like all these things. I hope it was successful, and thank you for being here today.